Major responsibilities of the government is to provide adequate security for our citizens. It is on this premise that the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, charged the military, police and other security agencies in the country to minimize casualties by ensuring adequate protection of civilians and humanitarian workers during violent conflicts. This call was made during this year's inauguration ceremony of the Comprehensive Protection of Civilians course in Abuja. The team lead of the Governance, Peace and Security Unit of the agency, Matthew Alao, says that civilians often bear the brunt of hostilities and uncertainties in the conflict zones around the world. As such, there is need to ensure their safety, uphold their rights and safeguard their dignities. Joining us in the studio is a security expert, Darlington, Umoru. Thank you so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Once again, we're here to talk about security, and we don't have any choice. We'll keep coming to talk on security matters until we get it right. Absolutely.
We just have to keep talking about, even in the developed economies, we also talk about security, how to improve security, because it's a global challenge, really. But how do you receive this news, about the UNDP, calling for Nigerian military to ensure that they reduce civilian casualties, protecting the civilians? How significant is this to this conversation?
Well, it's not out of place. It's not surprising. Of course, where you have a conflict, you must always also have the issue of the civilians suffering a part of it. Because sometimes the civilians themselves could be the target of a part of that conflict. So, but I have a challenge. My challenge is, well, the UN has to talk, but what has the UN really done for Nigeria to help reduce or minimize this conflict going on in the country? How much has UN done to the other countries who are one way or the other influencing what is happening in Nigeria? These are, you see, like I said some time ago, I said you don't cut a tree from the top. Cut it from the roots. And then it could die a natural death. You are telling the military, security agencies and all of that to do whatever they could to minimize the effect conflicts have on civilians. Yes, but you should do something more than that that could help prevent those conflicts. In the past, when there are conflicts in other countries, Nigerian military had served under the UN peacekeeping mission. They had also served under ECOMOG. How much of that have we had? Have you had the presence of the UN military peacekeeping forces coming to join the Nigerian military to tackle or settle the insecurity conflicts we have here? Why telling us, is this what we need at this point in time? How much equipment have you given the Nigerian military to fight the terrorists and the bandits? These are the basic things. How much have you helped to control or sanction countries where firearms are finding their ways into Nigeria from? Drugs will leave Canada. A container load of cannabis left the shores of Canada and got to Nigeria, only to be intercepted. Otherwise, they were not concealed. Are you saying intelligence in Canada is down? Are you saying the security apparatus in Canada is low? Are you saying the drug controlling agency in Canada didn't know about a 40-foot container that left that place? Look at the one that just happened, intercepted in Port Harcourt, firearms. Those ones were concealed, agreed. Where were they coming from? How much has UN done? How have they helped African countries, not just Nigeria in this instance? How much have they done? You grow cannabis in those countries, you export them to Africa. We use them to kill ourselves, get insane. They are sold, and the profit sometimes gets to the hands of these terrorists. And then they also look at what happened in Gaza the suicide bombers, the IED vest. You think they want to wear it on their own, out of their own volition, voluntarily? They are drugged. And so where are these drugs coming from? These are the basic issues that UN needs to address. You are talking about how civilians suffer the effects of conflict. You are not looking at how to stop those conflicts. That is my bane.
And, you know, one will say that telling the Nigerian military to ensure that they reduce the number of casualties, civilian casualties, and the brunt they bear, especially during this fire exchange most times, is something that has always been part of the training of the military, and they're actually doing their best, especially with what they have on ground, in ensuring that the situation is managed. Looking at the fact that recently, some weeks ago, there was suggestion that the military will be following some Nigerians, some farmers, during the rainy season.
Yes.
So these are factors
it's
that should have been
now.
considered, rather than just giving a statement and not, you know, providing more in area of effort and all that. But it's also noting that adequate protection of civilian and humanitarian workers, that's also another part that should be mentioned. Recently, we had the Gaza attack, and you know, a level of persons, a number of persons were injured in this situation. What will you say of the military itself and how they have managed?
Highly professional. The Nigerian military are about the best, one of the best in the world. They have performed under US and they came back with medals. They have performed under ECOMOG, they came back with medals, with less casualties. What does that tell you? They are the same people operating in the land. It's not just about criticizing these persons. I challenged a presenter yesterday. I said, come, let me take you to Sambisa Forest, and then stay there for 24 hours, and then come back and tell me whether you remain the same. No shelter. You see, these terrorists and bandits, they are aware about this politics. And so sometimes that's why they want to use humans as shields. Sometimes they want to use children kidnapped as shields. Now, the military is so conscious about all of that, the Nigerian military specifically here now. They have been so conscious about that's why sometimes you see when children are taken away, they don't just invade the place. It's not as if they don't know where they are. But they cannot just invade because they are considering civilian casualties. And so it has not helped them. Now they know there's an enclave, there's an area occupied by these persons, and then you also have innocent people there. They don't just go there to hit that place or try to take out the terrorists. The Nigerian military are so professional such that it's even affecting the rest of us. Because it's like I'm twisting them or tying their hands as to what they could carry out force. They are trained. They are trained to attack these persons. But for that simple thing that Amnesty International will come on them, some other international organization will come on them, will even misinterpret some of these things. It's even making them a bit wanting to withdraw from certain things they need to. Rather than carry out full force, 100% force on certain areas and on these people, they begin to consider this civilian casualty. Yes, you need to consider all of that. But yes, is it really helping us completely? No, it is not what UN should be telling us now.
Are you saying that we should face our own problem headlong without having to listen to the noise from outside? Because one would now tend to ask the reason why, or the reason behind the UN and some other international communities are telling us this is how we should go about it. The US sold to us Tucano fighter jets, but they told us not to use it in certain places. Yet they are saying that they can help us to fight, terrorism, insecurity, etc. The UN has been saying a lot of things, reacting to the issues, the genocide going on in Israel-Gaza war. But then,
what have they done?
Never listened to them.
What have they done? What have they achieved?
So how honest do you consider their points or their concerns regarding the Nigeria's security challenges?
If you want me to say to you the way it is, without mincing words, without fear or favor, they are not helping us. In fact, most of these countries are even helping to create conflicts in Africa because of the scrabble for Africa's resources. that Asia-West rivalry. And then some of them need to also say, it has not helped us. A few countries recently went out of, what do you call it now, the West Africa...
the
ECOWAS arrangement.
Mali, etc.
What has happened to them?
Sure, I don't recall.
If you want to correct them and they think it's not working for them, they pull out of that organization. But we cannot leave UN. But we can also say, let's do our own thing in our own way to achieve our own result. These people are not here. They are talking about humanitarian workers and all of that. How many times do you find them at war zones? How many times do you find them at war zones? What you find at war zones are the military and intelligence agencies. How many times would they, for how long? We want, like you rightly said, I was going to come to that. We want to buy equipment from these people to fight these terrorists and all of that. You give us conditions. In most times, you say you will not sell to us. Even though ECOWAS has a condition that before you even buy this equipment, you have to pass through ECOWAS. They give you the exemption certificate. And then you present this exemption certificate to this manufacturer. Do you know how long it took Nigeria to be able to purchase those Tucanos from America? Administration, the African man who was president of America, Obama refused to sell to us. It took the Republicans to agree to sell to us. You know the problem in Nigeria. You cannot bring men here. You can only bring people to come and lecture these persons. Let me use that word, lecture. You don't bring foot soldiers. But when you have crisis in some other places, you can't collect foot soldiers from Nigeria. Let us do our thing in our own way. There's no way two elephants will fight and grasses in that area will not suffer. The Tucanos cannot be deployed in certain areas to fight these terrorists. The amount of Tucanos we have, for your information, can take out a country. But eventually we have issues with any other external aggression. But we can, like he said, we cannot use them at all times. When they begin to consider the civilian casualty and all of that, apart beyond the conditionalities they give to us. Now, when we were even applying to buy those Tucanos, some Nigerians themselves wrote against the military to say that America should not sell to us. Pardon me, I will not name that region. They wrote to America to say that they should not sell to us, that Nigeria is planning to buy those Tucanos to use those Tucanos against them. And so these were petitions written by Nigerians, knowing fully well what we were passing through.
So when
one last point.
Okay.
But because we have these listening ears, our administrative heads, they have these listening ears. They want to tally along that line. They give instructions to these men and say, don't do it this way, don't go to this place, don't use this, don't use that. You have most of this equipment there, they are lying low because you cannot deploy them. Sorry.
So when you say let's do things our own way, what exactly are you saying?
Let's do things our own way.
This issue of insecurity has cost Nigeria a lot, and so I'm wondering when exactly we will be able to use some of these equipments that you see Nigeria has. It has cost us military men, cost us civilians, and let's not even talk about the financial implications. And recently, there's also the fear that we are going back to the 2019 era or 2015 era of extremism. And so, at what point exactly would you say that we are meant to do things our own way and we can't utilize some of this equipment? Are you saying they were bought?
Let's do it the Israel way.
And just bombing some of those areas.
Let's do it the Israel way and take out these people.
Well,
even with the civilians.
Some people will take.
No, not even with the civilians. Not as bad as the civilians. Pay deaf ear to some of these things and pursue your goals.
No, even international communities have come together to condemn what Israel is doing. Killing children, women, destroying farmland, destroying animals, and all of that. I do not think a lot of Nigerians will agree with you to to go the
No,
Israel way.
no. When I said
go...
do it when I said do it the Israel way, pay deaf ears to certain things. Okay, but Israel had gone to the extreme. Theirs has been
No. What if we want to expand this conversation, what Israel is doing is just like the United States tacitly supporting Israel and coming out to condemn what Israel is doing.
What has UN done? What has UN done to Israel?
You recall that the US is also threatening.
I'm not even talking about the US now. You are right. I'm not even talking about the US is playing politics.
No. It's because you said we should go the Israel way.
What I meant by that is that you see, if we want equipment, if you are not giving to us, let's get it from others who could give it to us. That's one. Two, if we want to fight, you have given us Tucanos. Okay? The Army has intelligence unit. Air Force has intelligence unit. Navy has intelligence unit. The intelligence agencies also have their various areas. Okay? Now, you do surveillance, you do inter-gathering, you identify some of these things, and then you cannot use certain equipment against terrorists.
Yeah.
If, for instance, America want to fight terrorists, if you are there as at the time they are battling with those people, it becomes accident. We are not encouraging that Nigerians, innocent Nigerian civilians that are supposed to be protected by the military and the intelligence agencies should be killed. We are not suggesting that. Now, these people are also aware, but I'm saying that is limiting the action and activities of our military men in the fight against these terrorists. The government should be able to stand its ground sometimes, to say, okay, UN, give us some men. ECOWAS, give us men. We have contributed men at different times to fight in other countries where we lost resources and both human and material. How many of that have we had? You know, before now, how many Nigerians were dying daily when terrorism started in Nigeria? Now, she asked a question and she talked about going back to terrorism, going back to status quo. What they started with, the IED vest and mines. They are also aware. Look at what happened in Gaza. A woman carrying a baby. Is that not shocking to you? A woman carrying a baby, could she have been doing that voluntarily? And then the military finds that kind of woman with a baby, they will not be able to attack her. Yes, she's wearing an IED vest. What's the implication? That's what I'm saying, sir.
So you mentioned ECHO.
But that woman detonated that IED in her, blowing off that child and herself.
What could have
Are you saying
on?
she was under an influence?
Yeah,
of course, definitely now.
And let's not forget that at the heart of some of these security issues is the issue of extremism. Some persons brainwashing others, promising
brainwashed, so not voluntary. She has been brainwashed. I'm glad you used that. Before being brainwashed, she may have been drugged. Before you robot control somebody, you may not have just done that ordinarily. Certain things may have taken place. Why do you think there's the influx of firearms and drugs into Nigeria? Smugglers are doing everything they want to do to ensure that they bring it in here. Most of them are going to the camps of these terrorists. Most of them are finding their way to the camps of the terrorists, either after they have been sold or the drugs themselves are finding their way. They go pari-passu, firearms and drugs.
Darlington, I don't know whether you've actually, I know you must have ruminated over this issue over and over again, because they said that the Nigeria's terrorism experience stemmed back from 2009 when Mohammed Yusuf was actually killed.
Yes.
Unjustly, maybe unjustly, but then indiscriminately, taken out of the surface of the earth. And that led to some people, protesting and all of that. And that's what begot terrorism in Nigeria. But if you look at Afghanistan, if you look at Syria, if you look at Iraq, some other countries where they are facing, insecurity challenges, Libya, Lebanon, etc., it's not that Muhammad Yusuf was killed. Something actually led to something for them to now have it full-blown. What is that long hand? Who is that, puppeteer that is actually controlling the fueling insecurity in this country, precisely on Nigeria? Or if there is a chain, because we mentioned ISWAP, we've mentioned ICs and all of that. To what end are they doing this? Where is this coming from?
I'm glad you added that. I'm glad terrorism is a global problem now. It's a global phenomenon now. It's not limited to one country. And so it's the involvement of conflicts in the world, emanating from where certain countries will train certain persons and want to use them, as molds against some other persons or countries.
And these global economies too are complicit.
Yes. And so that was how the whole thing started. Take it beyond Yusuf and take it back to Saddam Hussein, the Saddam Husseins of this world and all of that. You'll recall that these were persons who were trained by a particular country to use against certain persons. And then they revolted at a point in time against their masters. The
conspiracy theory.
Okay, we also bring it back to Nigeria. We had the issue in Zamfara where you have illegal miners arming some persons, some militants to protect them against state actors. And then at different times, those people became victims. Take it again to Niger Delta, where the freedom fighters felt shortchanged. The goose that laid the golden egg was suffering, and the golden eggs were being fed on by other people. And so they had to take to arms to say, okay, we will disrupt the activities of these eggs that we are laying, that you are coming here to take from, and not having our children compensated or having us compensated. And then the only means of livelihood that they had, that was farming, was also affected, grossly affected. Something must create conflict. Now you train these Western countries, America and all of that, they train certain persons from other countries to be used as molds against certain persons for whatever reason. And then along the line, these persons, you see, I have said it here, let me say it again. It is easier to give firearms to somebody, just like some politicians will also do across the continent. But it is most difficult to recover that firearm because it could also use it against you. So once you have, that's why I said, like what we have in the southeast today, we have not really understood what we have done to ourselves. For those of them who imported those arms and gave to those men, we would not understand it until we begin to suffer the implication in large scale. You see, the worst thing you can do is to give somebody a firearm. That man becomes like 10 persons. And a firearm is manufactured for two reasons, either to kill or to maim. And once you are handling it, you don't know your father, you don't know your mother. And so this were how these things started. When these people started revolting against their masters, it's like the slave traders and the slaves. When they started revolting against their masters, what do you do? And then they have to go back and then reinforce and begin to think. That's how the whole thing started.
Solutions. Right.
Like I said on the television station yesterday, I don't like talking about solutions again on television.
But there has to be solutions.
No, the reason there has to be solutions. But why I said that is that just like the right persons are listening, the terrorists and bandits are also listening. So just like you are telling the state actors, you are advising what to do, the bandits and terrorists are also listening, and then they are working against that as well. So sometimes it's better some of these solutions are given in
meeting.
Yes, in a meeting where the thing will be directly going to them, just like we did sometimes at with the Presidential Committee on Small Arms and Light Weapons.
Okay, so if the Nigerian military be having to discuss, in their own meetings, what about the individuals? What should we look out for? There has to be...
The individuals, you cannot protect yourself completely except you give out information to the security agencies. You don't carry firearm. If I brought out a shotgun here now, or I come with an AKM to you now, you will want to run away.
You don't know my military parties.
Well, even if you are a military man, if I pulled out the gun first, the first thing that will be coming to your mind is how to defend yourself.
That's right.
But if you are not careful, if you misjudge me, then you could be taken out.
Well, please don't try it.
No, I won't try it because I don't even have one.
So I'm very interested in what you said about the limit of powers of the military, and, you know, this sort of resonates with some persons that have mentioned the fact that this insecurity continues because of a lack of political will. I want you to speak to that. And the UN tasking, you know, the military orders on civilian protection, based on the relationship, especially in the northern region, northern part of Nigeria, how do you see, you know, the trust the people have, especially after this post-conflict era? A few days ago, they said normalcy has returned to Gaza. But what do we actually term normalcy? At that point, will persons want to put their trust again in the military? And when we are talking about, you know, limiting of these powers, using that equipment, I'm very interested in that. To, you know, we have to sift through the bandits, the civilians and all that. We still need a level of trust so that the civilians don't have to snitch, or because these people, they're family members, they're also relatives of, they're not unknown faces.
I don't know. You have asked about 2-3 questions now. I don't know if you could take those questions directly.
Okay, so you mentioned the limits of powers of the military.
Yes.
I want you to speak to that. Speak more on that. Because many have said that a lack of political will is what is affected. And so when we're saying we are fighting this...
All of that is a combination, but let me give you just a simple instance. If I'm carrying a gun now, you are carrying a gun, and I grab this gentleman, okay, he's a civilian, for instance. I'm an enemy, for instance. Because of what Amnesty will say, because of what UN would say, because of what other agencies will say, you'll be restricted from doing a shot at me, firing a shot at me, because I'm holding this man, using him as a shield. You will end up being killed. You, the state actor. And once you are gone, the country has lost so much resources, because you would have been trained severally, and the country would have invested so much in you in the course of training you to tackle me. But because I know your weakness, I just grab this man, get him close to my chest, or get a little child, hold the child to my chest, and then you are at my mercy. I ask you, drop your gun, or I kill this man. You drop your gun, he kills you. These are some of the challenges. So, the issue in Goza. Goza is at the border between Nigeria and Cameroon, where you have a thick mountain. The terrorists, I said this somewhere, when they were being chased, the Boko Haram, when they were being pursued aggressively by the military in Sambisa, many of them found their way to that mountain where you have Goza. That was why it was easy for them to run over Goza and some other communities and some other local governments at the time. And so, but now the situation is different. Now, they left the issue of the IED jackets, but they are returning to it. Now that they have returned to it, the military is now aware. And so focus will also be on movement of people now, because there's a way they identify people wearing IEDs. That's right. Well, but for the Nigerian military, they are wonderful.
Absolutely. And then you've actually advised the Nigerian government and the security agency to find a homegrown solution and listen less to the noise that are coming from
Amnesty and other agencies
of the global communities. Thank you very kindly, security experts, Darlington, Umoru. It's always an interesting insight with you on the show. Thank you so much.
I'm happy